Hello, my name is David Sherrick. This is a presentation of my senior research paper, Look to the Stars, Science Fiction and the Future of Humanity. For the introduction, I've embedded the video, but it's not working on Mac, so we will watch it on YouTube.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
So that was the introduction of one of my favorite Star Trek series, The Next Generation. So this is my thesis. Due to the human drive for technological advancement, humanity will be able to meet and exceed the technology seen from a variety of science fiction mediums. This will cause humanity to grow and flourish as we progress through the various levels of civilization and evolution. So, to start out with, we have to examine why humans want to have technology. What's the drive for technology in humanity? The answer? Science fiction. Science fiction has the unique ability to portray something that doesn't exist and make it appeal to us. That's what science fiction is. But science fiction has a history of becoming science fact. So let's look at our three mediums that we're going to be analyzing today. At the upper left-hand corner, of course, we have Star Wars. Star Wars, the first movie, came out in 1977. Since then, it has been a sensation. There have been 6 movies made, a number of cartoons, and hundreds of novels written about Star Wars. Star Wars is a Type 3 civilization. I'll talk about that more later. And it has spaceships, it has laser swords, it has blasters. It's just one of the most recognizable science fiction sources for anyone. At the lower left-hand corner, you see the symbol of Starfleet from Star Trek. Starfleet is a conglomerate of different species. They form something called the Federation of Unified Planets. And the Federation, its job is to seek out new species and explore across space, just trying to enhance their knowledge, and they are adventurers. In 1984, by George Orwell, it is a dystopian novel about future society. In it, the ruling class, called the Inner Party, uses technology to suppress the rest of humanity. They use things like telescreens and thought police. Thought police are not real, thankfully, but telescreens are nothing more than a television with a webcam. And you may or may not know this, but those exist today. And then on the lower right-hand corner, we have a representative of our video game mediums. Yes, video games are science fiction mediums. It's one of the most popular science fiction mediums that we have. That is actually a screenshot from Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a story about 100 to 200 years into the future. Players take command of Commander Shepard, a humanity soldier, and they are thrust into this world in which there are several different species and civilizations coexisting at once and trying to explore the world, and they are competing with resources and such as a Type 2 civilization. I'll talk more about Type 2 later, of course. And so video games are very much science fiction sources, and we will be analyzing them in this presentation. So how do you classify a civilization? How do you do that? Like, what are the criteria for civilization? How do you measure progression, technological as well as cultural, social, other things? There was a Russian cosmonaut in the 1960s, named Andrei Kardashev. Kardashev theorized 3 levels of civilization. When he made the scales, it was based on the amount of energy that a civilization could produce. So at Type 1, a civilization has renewable resources. They are basically masters of their planet. The dominant species has overcome all of the challenges of its home world, and it is now in complete control of that world. Type 2, you can harness the energy of a star, an entire star. I'll talk more about that later, of course. And then Type 3, you can harness the energy of a galaxy. These were the first levels that Kardashev made, but over the years, theoretical physicists have added to these levels. We're going to go up to Type 4 and 5. And they've also added more characteristics to these types, such as politics, and culture, military defense, and technology. And we will be examining the different levels of civilization through that lens. I mentioned that Type 1 is a global, unified civilization. Humanity is not unified, to say the least. So what are we if we don't even meet the first level of civilization? We are Type 0. A Type 0 civilization is in its infancy. It relies on non-renewable fossil fuels, it has frequent wars within itself, and it's just very primal in nature. That describes us perfectly right now. If you look at the course of human history, as long as people could be fighting, they are. One could look at human history and just say that human history is a bunch of internal species civil wars. That's what our history is. We've just been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years. Why are we like this? Well, we're babies. Literally. If you look here on the right, we have a diagram of the geologic time that Earth has been here as a rock. This geologic time scale puts everything that has ever happened on Earth and has it in a scale that's been as long as the Earth as a rock has been at this particular point in time and space. Obviously, we have the Hadean, Archean periods all the way to the Mesozoic and the Cenozoic. Now, you have the purple here wrapping around the circle. That's when the first life started to happen. And then, of course, you have stuff like the Cambrian, all that stuff. That's not important. This orange bar is when the first dinosaurs started showing up. The Earth is approximately 4.6 billion years old. That's how long it's been at this point in space. Dinosaurs started showing up at around 230 million years ago. That's a long time. A long time. And, of course, they were eventually extinct after the KT event, which wiped them all out because of the asteroid. But if you look up top of here, There's a very, very, very small sliver of red. You can't even see it unless you are very close. That red represents humanity. Humanity has only been on Earth for approximately 2 million years. That's it. That's all we've been in here for. We are babies. We are in our infancy. And like any infant, we try to make the best with what we have. We try to learn about the world. We investigate, we adventure, and yes, we fight a lot. That's where we are now. But we are rapidly making the transition to Type 1. We have a very optimistic future. Talking about the transition to Type 1, my service learning project for my senior research year will take place on in the Bass Senior Center, April 28th, 2015, from 5 to 8 p.m. At the Bass Center, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take student volunteers from Seaholm, and we're going to go to Basque, and Basque is going to have the senior citizens that visit there, and they're going to have the senior citizens bring all of their Apple products in, and we high schoolers are going to show them how to use those. So iPod, iPad, iPhone, Mac, you name it, if it's Apple, we are showing you how to use it. Anything from what is an app? How do you get more? What kind of apps are there? How do you use your email? How do you surf the web? How do you make a calendar? How do you click on stuff? We're all going to be doing that. I'm going to be giving a presentation much like this, only it's going to be on the basics of Apple products, and then we're going to split up on a one-to-one basis and instruct each senior citizen how to use their device correctly. So moving on, transition to Type 1. Like I said, we are at Type 0 right now, but we have the fortune of being alive today. The reason is because we are lucky enough to see the transition to Type 1 civilization. As I mentioned before, Type 1, it's a planetary civilization. They have mastered all of the challenges that the homeworld represented them, and the dominant species has taken full control of their homeworld. It's a unified government, non-renewable resources, and it's globally unified. We are seeing the transition to this today. We have up here NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It was originally developed in the 1900s to fight communism. However, it has become much more than that today. With the dozens of countries in NATO, they have all pledged that an attack on one single country is an attack on them all. That is a very Type 1 institution. It's a global defense organization. Over here we have the European Union. It gives exclusive trading rights and privileges to its members in Europe. It is the beginning of a Type 1 civilization. They all use the euro. It's a unified currency. It's a unified economic system. Down here we have the United Nations. The United Nations isn't very effective right now, but it's getting there. The United Nations form is representative of all the different nations on Earth. And they do stuff that affects humanity as a whole. Like I said, it's not very effective now, but they're working on it. As a matter of fact, when I was in the child soldier elective about child soldiers in Africa in sophomore year, we actually read a document made by the United Nations explaining the basic rights of a child, like the right to a name, the right to food, the right to have a caretaker, that kind of thing. And that's the United Nations. And then the last thing I want to mention for the Type 1 civilization is the Internet. The Internet is a Type 1 telephone system. It allows for near instantaneous communication of information and knowledge globally. You can be in Argentina and have a guy in Egypt send you help for a math problem. You can have a scientist in Japan give a guy in Turkey instructions on how to build a telescope. That's the type of technology that's a Type 1 telephone system. That's what the Internet has done for us, and as it progresses and gets older, it's going to have much more capability. It's very interesting to see what the internet is going to be like in 10, 20, 30 years. So after Type 1, we have Type 2. Type 2 is the civilization of Star Trek. Like I said, the Federation is a conglomerate of different species seeking to explore the galaxy and make contact with new civilizations. And also, like in Star Trek, they also compete with different civilizations for resources, for prestige, for things like that, like the Klingons, Romulans, Borg, what have you. At Type 2, the civilization can harness the energy of a star. Stars have a ton of energy. If you took and built an ice bridge, a bridge made of solid ice from the Earth to the Sun, 2 miles in length or width, and then 1 mile deep, the Sun has enough energy to completely melt the entire ice bridge in 1 second. A single second. That's how powerful stars are. Our star is a medium star. So if you can imagine a big star, like a blue star, the energy you could get from that is astronomical. Also, Type 2 civilizations, they have very advanced technology, of course, for Type 2. They have interstellar travel. It's the Type 2 is the stage of civilization where different cultures where civilizations start to branch out and colonize other worlds. It's a colonial civilization. Down here we have Halo. Halo is a pessimistic view of the future. In Halo, humanity has branched out, it's colonized other worlds over a period of about 300 to 400 years, and it's colonized worlds across the galaxy. And then one day, they meet another civilization called the Covenant. The Covenant is a conglomerate of different alien species within itself. And the leaders of the Covenant convince the rest of it that humanity poses a threat to their religion, and therefore attacks humanity, and there's a big galactic war. Humanity eventually wins after cataclysmic losses. Down on the lower right here, you have Garrus Vakarian. If you're a fan of the Mass Effect video game series, you'll recognize Garrus. In Mass Effect, humanity is also colonizing new worlds, and it's also run across something called the Citadel. The Citadel is a giant space station just hovering at a certain point in space. And it has home to every single species that has been discovered in the Milky Way galaxy. And there they make decisions that affect them all, whether they be political, economic, military, defense, you name it, that's where it is. And then, of course, the Reapers, who are Type 3 civilization, come in and invade the Citadel civilizations in Mass Effect. Type 3 is a civilization of Star Wars. At Type 3, you have a galactic community. At a Type 3, it's a community, it's a conglomerate of all these different species, extremely tight and unified across the entire galaxy. At Type 3, you're looking at intergalactic travel first coming out. You have hyperspace, you have, star destroyers, you have laser swords, you have blasters. That's the kind of technology that is reminiscent of Type 3. At Type 3, the civilizations are able to muster the entire energy of a galaxy, and humans today just can't conceive it. We just can't, how much power that is. And it's very futuristic, and yeah, that's Type 3. Type 4 doesn't have a science fiction medium to compare it to. It's in between two science fiction medium levels. But Type 4 really doesn't have any science fiction sources that are representative of it. At Type 4, we have the entire universe is actively explored and forms a community. As a universal civilization, we're reaching out to the corners of the universe. A Type 4 civilization can harness the power of quasars and black holes. Black holes are holes in space that actually have infinite density. They pull in everything. It's like a sand. It's like a I can't think of the word right now. It's like a pit of sand in space, where it pulls everything in and it sucks it in. Even light. Nothing escapes the black hole. But a Type 4 civilization can harness the energy of it. Astronomical. Type 5 civilization is the multiverse. The multiverse is a theory in physics that states that we are in our own universe right now at this particular time with this particular reality. But out there are an infinite number of universes. Some share our same time and space, maybe with one or two different significant changes. Like, there's something called the butterfly effect. That states that, maybe there's this butterfly, and this little girl sees this butterfly, and from then on she's mesmerized by its physiology and its beauty, and she goes into the medical field, she cures cancer, and changes the fate of the human race forever. Now what if that butterfly didn't exist? And she never decided to go into the medical field, she never decided to pursue science, she never discovers a cure for cancer, she never saves lives. Down the road, that's an astronomical change. Think of it if none of the forefathers were alive during the American Revolution. What if a bomb went off at one of their meetings and they were all killed? Our country, if it was a country and still not part of England, would be very different today. Astronomically different. We wouldn't recognize it. That's the multiverse. It's a series of infinite universes with infinite possibilities. Everything you can imagine and more. Type 5 is civilization. Star Trek The Next Generation fans might recognize these two pictures from Star Trek The Next Generation. These pictures are of a being called Q. Q is from the Q continuum. The Q continuum is a race of beings that are gods in every sense, meaning, and definition of the word. They are able to teleport to anywhere in space and time, including the multiverse. They can create and destroy matter. They can make anything appear, disappear. They can make anything they can imagine just by a snap of their fingers. That's the extreme power that they hold. And I included a picture of Superman there because that just shows you how human beings would have powers. They don't need technology at this point. They have cosmic powers. And that's Type 5 civilization. For final thoughts that I'm going to leave you here with today, the future of humanity is very optimistic. I am optimistic. Right now we are in our infancy with civil wars raging across our species, genocides, poverty raging across our planet. But technology has the power to change that. Technology will allow us to reach up and look to the stars. The future of humanity is bright indeed. Thank you all for coming today, and at this time I will take questions. Thank you.